Hello, and welcome to this Carbonite video. In this video, we're going to cover Carbonite TD practices applied to an ESPN and also ATP tennis package. It's going to involve a detailed walkthrough of setup on Ross Mobile Productions Fin3 Mobile, launching of dashboard switcher interface, the router and gear interfaces, while also launching of the expression UI for the TD switcher effects usage. We're going to give a walk-around tour of the Carbonite 2S that's installed and the dashboard UI for how to use it. Introduction to configuration menu for making required changes, as well as we're going to cover programming of effects in both the custom controls and the memories system. Final quick run-through of basic show elements and interaction with primary CG. Note that there are two engines, one 2-channel, which is the primary CG, and then the single channel, which is dedicated for the TD for effects and transitions. So this is Fin3 that we were discussing, and the layout of the truck that we were using for doing these demonstration purposes. For those working on Fin3, this obviously gives a good application usage for this specific truck. However, it is designed off of the open truck concept, so other open truck based vehicles will be able to leverage this tutorial as well. Hope you enjoy this video and look forward to showing others in the near future. So we're going to start by how we launch the switcher applications. So on our expression, we want to make sure to launch our dashboard client. Don't worry, it's the beta version, just say yes, as well as the expression. Both are kept down in the toolbar at all times, so you'll have access to them. When expression launches, we want to open it up and we want to open our project. So under File, in this case ESPN College Tennis, Save Changes, no, because I'm not doing anything. There's no other project open currently. And this will load in our project for us. So we're going to build our wipes and our bumps off of this project. This is the full-blown project, so there's a lot of stuff in here that I don't need. So a lot of times what I like to do is I like to just come through and clear out everything I don't need. So I'm just highlighting, shift clicking, and deleting everything. I'm going to keep the wipes, the court transitions that are already done, and I'm going to keep some interstitials that are already done for me, and then everything else I'm going to get rid of because they are carried in the main package, which is on the other expression. There is an open, so there's an ESPNU branded open. I'm going to keep that. We can run the locators and everything else off of the other machine, but it's easier to just trigger this right from here. And then we've got our, again, everything else that's just not needed. It can come off of the other expression. So now I've got my my elements cut down, making it a little bit easier. I'm going to arrange them and usually how ESPN sends it out. So I've got my replay burn in 16. We've got a replay in 23, replay out in 24, generic flare 1, and another generic flare as well. So these are just wipe types. So we're going to build these elements into our switcher file. So I'm currently taking a system that already had some macros built, and we're just going to replace them. I wanted to keep them just for positioning so I could keep everything in the same place. So first we hit the custom control button, which moves the switcher into custom control menu mode, and now it's green when I select a macro. It doesn't trigger the macro, instead it just selects it. Now if we go back to dashboard, in here it'll launch and I have access to all of my Carbonite menus from the tree on the left, as well as the router and some of the gear cards. Whatever was the last thing I had open is what I'll see when I relaunch. So in this case, I had my little router open, which I can connect to, so I can have access to the full router, so I can switch the HD SDI pairs to all of and the AES pairs to all of the destinations. So as the TD, very helpful to be able to route these things for everyone when they want specific decks into the Ronins, or you want to be able to get tape in and out of the system as well. So again, you have destination, you have source, pretty straightforward. Configuration. You can lay out your multi-viewers any way you like. You just click on the tab, so this would be the left multi-viewer, multi-viewer 1, and I can pick a different layout. And as you can see, the multi-viewer changes instantaneously, and now I can go from box to box and assign them how I like. For now, we're just going to leave it in the layout that I had, because this is what we want to use. You can also come in and you can rename the inputs. Really useful for coming in and changing the names for your camera people, making it easier for the director to talk to the camera people and specify who it is they're talking to. As well as when you have different inputs like a Hawkeye for ATP or a beauty cam, I can come in and I can name it. Output configuration, this you shouldn't have to change because we have the router fully routable, so you'll leave these the way they are. On air, again, only ME2 is on air, but if you were working a different show and you were cutting a screen with an aux bus separately, you could always say that this is on air. That way we'll tally the camera even if that is being used. Your GPIO assignments, your multi-viewers as we mentioned, and multi-screen, which is an advanced feature for on-set monitoring, which we'll cover at another time when we have a show more entertainment style than sports. For now, we're focusing this on the tennis application. Okay, the other menu that's important is the Live Assist menu. This is the menu that you can set to follow along. This is also the menu, so when I hit dissolve, it goes there. When I hit wipe, it's tracking with the wipes. I go to my keyer, it goes to my keyer menu, giving me the settings here on the screen as well as right here in the menu system. The difference being the on-panel menu system, I have to advance to my elements as opposed to seeing every single one right here in the screen, just giving me more information right in front of me. The other tabs involve the MEs, the mini MEs. A mini ME is this item here. And a mini ME, we've got 4 of them in the system. Now these buttons have been reassigned. This will always quick select me to ME1, Mini ME4, which we use for beauty with logo fly or graphics on top. 6 is camera 5, so that we can bring graphics in like matchups on a wide shot of the court if we have camera 5 to pull back. Now, I wanted to keep the aux buses also quickly delegatable, so I can still access them and change what source I'm sending out. But if I want to get to the additional 2 mini MEs, like mini ME2, I just hold down the button, and now the delegate row changes. I select that mini ME, and I'm at that mini ME. Quickly back to ME1. The other thing is that each row can have its own custom control macros assigned to it. So here I'll put bang 3 on this one, and you see the mnemonics change to show you the name of that custom control. Whereas down on the main row, I'm looking at custom control macro row number 1. So custom controls can also be seen and controlled from inside of the GUI. There's a custom control menu. We have our shop box, which would allow me access to any of the 8 banks, any of the 32 macros. And that's to run them no matter what state the switcher's in. Then we've got our custom controls menu. The menu is where, this is where I can come in to select a macro, and I can see each of the key events very easily, see what each event does. And this is a nice way to make it easy for me to quickly modify these events as well, delete event and insert event, as well as naming the macro with the keyboard that's velcroed to the wall. So we're going to start with the replay in macro, because this was the custom control macro that we wanted to modify first, and it's down here. So when I look at this macro, that already exists. The benefit of taking a previously built set and building off of it is that some of the work is already done for me. So here, what I have is a macro that is to do a replay wipe. So the first element of the wipe is to run an event called key 2 or key 4 on ME2 set play. Now this macro is actually found in bank 8. The purpose of this is so if I take this setup file and I go to a different production switcher, Carbonite that is, that has a different source mapping, I only have to modify this one macro and it would ripple through all my custom controls. And all this macro does is it selects the correct graphics machine, in this case X3, to the key 4 location. Then it makes sure that, that keyer is an auto select key. So to make this macro, if I had to modify it, I'd delete out the events, I'd hit insert, and all I'd say is, okay, I want key 4 to be X3 and I want it to be an auto select key. Then I hit stop recording. So now I would have changed how all of these wipes would assign the right source to that keyer every time we call them up. That way I don't have to record those events into each macro, which then I'd have to go and edit every single wipe macro to have those same events. So this allows me to embed that macro to make it very editable on the fly. So back to bank 1, replay in. Then we wait 2 frames. That's just so if they were different, it would give time for the switcher to breathe, so to speak. Next up, I want to select the background in the transition area, and I want to include key 1, key 2, and key 3 to all go off air. What that means is when we run this wipe, if any of those keys are currently active, that macro will include them to make sure they always go off air. But if the key is already off air, it won't include them in the next transition. Or if it was already included in the next transition and it was off air, it would make sure to uninclude it from the transition area, thus making sure that you're always going in clean to your element. Next is where we trigger the event that we want. So this is the take ID that we fire for the wipe to have it perform the wipe here and on a specific layer. Now there's 2 ways of doing this. Since I'm triggering take ID 1, channel 1, layer 5, I have 2 choices. I could modify this part of the custom control, or I can actually go into expression and I could say my wipe in should be ID 1. So now this is a way to remap my elements to the macros as well. So now that's done for me. And the only reason why I did that is we still have to put the burn bug in when we do the wipe. So we'll be showing you how to do that momentarily. So next up, we're going to pause for 10 frames. 10 frames is the duration in 720 that it takes from the command sent from the switcher to when that wipe will commence. Next up, it automatically cuts the key on air for me. And if the keyer was off air, it goes on air. If it's on air, it stays on air. It is a state setting. And those are all done through the insert menu. So if I was inserting here, I would say insert, insert event. This is where I find my holds, my pauses, loop a macro, GPOs, cut key, trans key. So cut key, we'll cut it. And I want to make sure to say ME2, key 4, and I want it to go on air. And then I would press the insert button. So that is how you can quickly insert your pauses and durations. So we'll just cancel because I don't need to insert it twice. Then it'll wait 30 frames plus 20, so 50 in total before it does the cut. So really what we want to do here is we can go to our expression, select the element, and we can actually press Control E, which will put us into layout mode. We want to make sure under animation that our scene director is open. So now I can use the scene director to scrub through and find the exact frame number that I can perform the transition. So here, it would be frame 60, right? You could probably do the transition at 60, at 59 or even 58 and nobody would really notice, but let's just go to 60 to be nice and clean. So we go back to dashboard. So since we want to be on frame 60, I can make life easier. I could say, okay, delete this event and delete this event. And now, before the cut, we're going to insert an event. We're going to pick a pause. And we're going to say, since 60 frames is 1 second in 720p, we're going to set that to 1 second and hit insert. Then we stop recording, go to previous event, and I can see my pause of 60 frames. Now there's also a way to do it on the panel that's also really fast. So if we're in the custom control menu, right, and I pick my custom control, if I'm here and we delete that event and I insert to start recording again, you'll see up here the buttons up here, and there's one labeled insert. And again, this would take me to the insert menu on the panel, and I could dial through the pauses and the elements. Or I could hold down insert, and now the key bus row changes, and I've got quick inserts. I can quickly insert hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames of pause, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So if I wanted 60 frames, I'd go 30, 30. Let go, and I can stop recording, or press the macro that's running to also stop its recording. However, now you'll see in the list how it goes: pause, 30, 30, then the cut. So there's two different ways of quickly entering your pauses. Now we want to pause the duration until the wipe is complete. So again, we can just come over here and we can see that it finishes at about frame 70. So we'll just come back over. Whoops. We'll just go back over to dashboard. And what we can do is we want 10 frames plus at least 1 frame. So we can throw in 15 frames and be no big deal. So let's just delete these events. We're going to start inserting right here. And again, I can use the panel or I can use the touchscreen. And I'm going to say insert 15 frames. Stop recording. So 15 frames. Now the wipe will always press the background to clear the transition area. It'll always press dissolve to make sure we're back on dissolve. Then it will also cut the keyer off air, clearing it so in case somebody cued something on that channel, it wouldn't accidentally go to air on us. So that is now our replay in macro. The only thing we have to do though is we want to make sure that the burn bug comes out underneath it. So we're going to get to the burn bug in a second. First, let's just try and see how it looks. So I want to hit the dissolve button just to kick my menu out of custom control mode. Otherwise the macros will only select, not run. I'll pick 2 of my different cameras, right? Anything I got video in. And now I go ahead and I run that wipe. And as you can see, we've got a nice, clean replay wipe. Simple, built, awesome. So now really quickly, what we want to add to that though is we want to add the burn bug, because that's got to come in. And we're going to do it on our same channel of expression because it's there and we might as well do it. So first off, we're going to delete the cut key off air element because we need this channel to stay up so that the burn bug comes in afterwards. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to delete this event. So that's good. It won't turn it off at least. And now what we have to do is we have to think about that element back here where we decided after this, wait 10 frames, key goes on air, and then we had a pause of 60 frames until that animation came full. So 10 frames before I do the cut, I need to make sure that I'm sending the command to bring in the burn bug. So we're going to delete this event, and instead of another 30, we want to insert a pause of 20 frames. And the reason for that is just because now I want to send the command for the burn bug. So we go to expression, we look at the sequencer, and we know that our burn bug is item 16. And this is pretty much where they keep the replay burn bug inside of all of the ESPN packages. So we'll come back down to dashboard now that we know that that's what it is. And what we want to do is we want to now insert that event. So to get to the device control menu, once I'm inserting into this macro, I just tap key 4 again. And what that does for me is it takes the touchscreen menu, or not the touchscreen, sorry, the on-panel menu, it takes you to the device control menu. So now I can control that expression sequencer. The first knob is up and down. If I scroll the knob, I'll actually move the sequencer. Take, we'll just take and leave the focus bar where it is. Next, we'll advance the focus bar. And again, these are items we'll cover afterwards. Now I can also send commands like resumes, clears, reads, takeoffs, and even set focus. But for this, we want a take item because we don't want to move that sequence bar. What we want to do is have it just run the event without changing the focus or the preview, so to speak, of the expression. So now we want take ID 16 on channel 1, layer 0. And that way it comes in underneath the wipe, which we were running on layer 5. We hit the take command, and now that's included in our custom control. So now when we stop recording, I'll see that there's my event. Take ID 16, channel 1, layer 0. So now right after that event is where we insert event, insert pause, and this is where we get our 10 frame pause back. Insert, and we stop recording. So now I do have my full 60 frames, right? I got my 50 before, send that event, wait 10 more, now do the cut underneath. So let's go ahead and let's try to do that element now. Okay, 1. And as you can see, we run it, but we don't see the burn bug. So if you go to your sequencer and you run it, you'll see that it comes in for a hair fraction of a second. And that's because that wipe actually will clear layers below it in case something was already on screen on this channel. It would also wipe that out. So what we need to do is just tweak our timing so that that pause accounts for getting the burn bug in after the clear command. So let's just go back to our event and let's go back, and instead of 20 frames, let's make it 22 frames, or 20, we'll make it 25 just to make it easy this time. So we go ahead and we insert, where were we? 30, we want, right before this, we want to insert, and we want to insert 25 frames. Now, this does mean that we need to make sure that after we now delete that event, and now we insert 5 frames. Because again, the total needs to be 60 before the cut. Okay, let's go ahead and give that a try. And now you can see it comes in nice and clean every single time. So we do the wipe, and the burn bug is already there underneath our wipe when it comes out. Awesome. So our replay in is done. So next, what we've got is our out macros.
And the first one is out with camera 1 and the bug. It's very important that we get camera 1 with the bug, meaning the score bug. And this is just because sometimes it's so fast paced, it's just ready 3, out to 1, out to 1. And you don't want to have to be constantly selecting on the preset bus and moving your hand. So if I was on camera 4 and I needed to go out quickly, instead of pressing out with bug, I would press out 1 with bug, so camera 1. So obviously the first event is to select it quickly for me on preset. Make sure the keyer is set correctly. We make sure to set the key 3 as well, because we're going to be coming out with score bug on key 3. Pause for 2 frames. Then we do ME2 trans. We make sure just the background is included. We make sure that key 2 will go off air. We make sure that key 3 will go on air, and we're making sure that key 1 is also going to go off air. Meaning these keys will always end up off air. This key will always come out under the wipe on air, because our score bug comes in on layer 3 from expression channel 2, or what we call X2. So first thing it does is it sends take ID channel 1 layer 5. So just like below for my replay out, I can simply come here and change this to 2, and it's already saved me some time. And we know we're going to have to deal with pauses, so I come over to my sequencer. First I select this, I press Control E, it automatically loads that up for me. And it looks like the first frame is right at frame 14. So when we go back to our custom control macro and we edit it, we know bug cut play, that will trigger the bug to make sure that it's on the channel. If it's off the channel, turn it on. If it's on the channel, it'll turn it on. And that's simply sending a command to expression channel 2 to play a take ID, which is the bug. And that's actually in bank 8, right there, bug cut 824. It pauses 10 frames, so that's for the initiation. Then we cut the key on air in case it was off air. And now this pause is how long before we can do the cut underneath. And it's only 14 frames. So we want to delete this event, and we want to insert an event, and we want to go ahead and insert a pause. So it's 14 frames, and we insert. So now I hit stop recording. So I see my 14 frames. It'll cut on ME2. Then, same as before, we have the out pause that we have to wait for. So the previous one we were using at 15 frames. If we go back to expression and we drag across the sequencer, we'll see that it's around 66 frames that you're out. So you take the 14, take 66, minus 14, right? That gives you 52. So if I go ahead and come back here, stay on layout. We come back here and we delete this event. Now we want to insert event, insert a pause. I'm using a mouse right now. I could be touching, but the mouse is just as fast. And we'll make it 55 frames. Because on the out, it doesn't matter that we're a few frames behind, because all we're going to do is reset up the transition area and turn the key off. So we go ahead and we insert that. Now we stop our recording, we hit next, right? I see my 55 frames. It makes sure it's going to reset to background, it's going to reset to dissolve, and it's going to cut the key off air. So that is our out with 1 bug. So now when I look at it, I go ahead, we come out, and we run it. So let's come out with the bug. Boom, there it is. And the bug, it cut it on air for me. So that's our score bug for the tennis package. So replay in, I go in, there's my burn bug, I come out to 1, or I could say ready 4, and you'll see 4's ready, but he says out 1. When I hit out 1, it automatically clicks it and takes me back on camera 1. All right, we could go and modify those exact same steps, the pauses, that being in the out bug, because all we'd have to do is take the events and modify those pauses. Or something that you'll want to use later when you're trying to create these macros as well, like I wanted to do it, I didn't have it. So let's say I don't have this out with bug. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete that entire macro. So I built my out with 1. Now I would copy it, select where I want it to go, I paste it, right? Now I go ahead and I just say out bug. So I've renamed it out bug. Now from the switcher panel itself, you can just change the text name, but from the panel itself, if you go here on the screen, instead of edit function, you can scroll to name, rename. Now it's a lot easier to type it in here, but from this menu, when you hit next, now you can change the color and the inversion. So here I can go ahead and give out bug inverted text, click the next button to go back to the first page, and click save. That way when I look at it, there's a nice distinction that's kicking out at me. So they're side by side, but they are now slightly different. So we're going to take this macro now, and all we're going to say is we're going to delete this first event, because that was just presetting camera 1. So it was a lot faster than modifying our pauses. It was really quick to just have to delete that one single event. So like before, hit dissolve, that way we're out of the custom control menu. So now, right, we go ahead and we replay in. I select the camera I want to go out to, camera 5, and now when we hit the out, there it is, out with bug, with whatever I put into my preset channel. So very easy to use. Then up next, we've got our bug on and bug off commands. So even though there's a bug operator who's filling in the score and they could trigger the bug on and off, what's really nice is the fact that not only do we have control of this expression, but we can control the other expressions as well. And that's why I've got channels I can even clear. So I can clear their channel 1, I can clear their channel 2. This is in bank 3. And channel 3, which is the one that we have control of here. Making it easy to look up, something's in a channel, you want to clear it, maybe you want to put their font hot so that they can animate it in, but they still have something on the channel. Instead of them having to fits and futz around, you can just easily reach up and say, oh, clear channel 2. And as you saw, my score bug disappeared. We've also got resume commands. So if they were to animate in a graphic that had an animation, and we wanted to go back to another one, but we still wanted to animate it out, this would allow that operator to move down in their list to find the next graphic, and you can send the resume command to continue the animation. These just send resume to the channel. Next up, we've got our next buttons. This would take whatever they have in that preview bar, whatever their focus bar is on, it would take it and it would move the bar 1 as well. If that graphic has multiple resumes in it, the bar will not move until all resumes have been cleared. So if it flies in, then flies out, you could actually use the next to advance it in, the next to advance it out. The bar would move to the next graphic, allowing you to continue down that sequencer list. So, getting back to the bug, it's run on that separate channel. So when I look at the bug on macro, we use that M2, so ME2, key 3, set play, which again is in bank 8. It's this one macro, and all it does is it makes sure that channel 2 of the expression is on key 3, and that key 3 is set to an auto select key type. So, and then same thing for ME2 key 2 set. This will make sure that channel 1 of the expression is assigned to key 2, and that key 2 is set to an auto select key type. Let's go back to our bank 1 and let's look at that bug on. So that bug on sets the keyer, waits 2 frames, sends the command take ID 8 channel 2 layer 0. This will force the score bug into channel 2 at all times, layer 0. And the score bug is just expected to be at ID 8 for the animate in, ID 9 is the animate out, ID 10 is the cut in, and ID 11 is the dissolve in. And those are always the same place that all of the elements for the bug are located in the sequencer. They're always those take IDs. So it's great. We don't even have to modify this. Next up, we pause for 10 frames because that's the duration for it to start. Then we make sure that key 2 trans is off air. Now the reason I did this is there are graphics that will run on channel 1 that are to run in the same place as our bug. So this will make sure that if I take this and I still have a graphic in, like a lower third, when I hit that take, it'll dissolve out that channel, and then it will trans on this channel if this keyer is off air. Then finally you have the end. So we look at the bug on, and there we go, it animates on. The bug off, right next to it, that sends channel ID 9 to the same channel, because the animate off is a separate take item. Next, it waits 60 frames, and then it cuts the key off air, just to clear the keyer out. So now we bug off, and you can see that the keyer clears as well. So you got your bug on, you got your bug off, nice and pretty. Big score works a little differently. The big score actually is the same graphic because it doesn't have an animate. It just kind of dissolves on. So here's my big score on, and here's my big score off. It's still sending the exact same take ID. The only difference being is that it has to transition the element for the keyer. So I do that so that when I go on, I make sure to bring the key on, and when I go off, I make sure that the key goes off. So that's your big on and your big off. Beauty with CG. This macro just makes it easier for us. What it does is it selects Mini ME4, where I'm using my Mini ME4 to simply put the beauty camera on the background, right? And then in key 2, which is a linear key, I've got expression 1. It's cut on air, and we've stored this by hitting the store button into the program side of the memory system. Well, I'll explain the memory system a little afterwards, but you have to pick either program, memory AI, or effects dissolve. Program means it'll always take it as a snapshot right away, the way you're traditionally used to snapshots working, or emails. So I'm just going to store this back over 1, exactly how we stacked it up. Next, it recalls memory 1 on this Mini ME. Note, the macro will not change the row. If I was on ME1, it does this all under the hood and you won't see it. Next, it makes sure that on my program ME, ME2, that key 1, key 2, and key 3 will be included to go off air, because we want to make sure that we go to the beauty clean to either fly in the graphic, because the keyer's always on the beauty, or it'll go in clean because the graphic is already on the channel and ready to go. And then it just hits end. So the idea here is it presets it for us. So when I look at this macro, we hit it, it puts it into preview. Okay, so what we want to do here is when it preset it, you'll see that whatever was in channel 1, expression 1, is already on top of the beauty. And then we see that in the multi-viewer. So the beauty cam is already pre-fonted, and now I don't have to worry about going in and going out. And the macro itself, no matter what was on air, like say the bug was on air, so we had our bug on air, right? When I hit the beauty with CG, it'll always make sure to queue it up, queues up my transition area, and now I can use, a transition to go ahead and get to my beauty. But what's really nice about this is it leaves your program ME clean. I'm using that, I use that a lot for a beauty with a wipe, and life is great. we have the exact same thing as well inside of our Cam 5 with CG. And again, sometimes we like to do a widescreen shot, taking in the whole court, and they like to fly in graphics from the bottom, or even do one of these full pages over top of that. Again, when it's in between sets, it just gives another beauty angle that we can utilize to our advantage. And it works the exact same way. The only difference being is that it calls up Mini ME2. Now, I could have done this differently. We could have built it to all use Mini ME4, and that way I could have camera 5 and it using the different elements. And to do that, simply what I would have done is I would have said, okay, on Mini ME4, let's change the camera 5, right? The bug stays in, and now I'm going to store this to memory 2. So let's go ahead and we're going to edit this guy. And we're actually going to not use Mini ME3, right? We want to use, so we're going to delete that event. Mini ME2 we delete. Mini ME1, recalling the memory we delete. So now I include event, so we start inserting right here, and we say, okay, Mini ME4, recall 2. So now that we've modified it from the way I had it, now what happens when we look at these, when I recall this, it'll use the exact same source, but now it recalls a different memory, so that different state that we had stored. The benefit of this is I can't use these things simultaneously or even back to back. It's not possible. So I might as well use that same Mini ME resource, which allows me to free up that Mini ME2 to not just be used statically for this. Other elements that I've used the Mini MEs for, it's nice to take one, you put clean feed into the Mini ME. We were doing this with Mini ME3. So if I look at Mini ME3, we're putting in the clean feed, and then we were keying the score bug over top of it. That way, if somebody wants to record the clean and only the score bug, all other lower thirds and full pages will never be added. It will just be the score bug. So it really adds an advantage for world feeds or even clean feeds, but they still want to keep score, making it easier to keep that in the presentation later on when they re-air it. So there's our camera 5. Next up, I built a macro called QBug. Now, originally I had a Hawkeye one, but there's no Hawkeye in ESPN Tennis. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to move this macro. To move a macro, it's really easy. You take it, you copy it, you place it where you now want it, you paste it, you go back to the original, you delete it. There is no cut, there's just copy and paste, so you just have to do the delete function afterwards. Now, sometimes we like to use the ESPN wipes on their own, but these ones really are only meant to be used for the replay. That's just the way it's branded. So I still like to put them in case I need to wipe in with something not clean. I want to set it up and I've got that wipe to go in. You could also have the out because you want to select something different than the out with bug. That being said, in tennis, we never do. It's always exactly like this. So we've used this as a means to get to other elements or other things like full boards and pages. However, we can always come through the list of elements and we can find other wipes and other transitions that we can potentially use. There are some other type of wipes and transitions, and there's also the interstitials. So I might want to take one of these interstitials, right, drop it in, and then I program these the same way I programmed a replay in. So for now, as a placeholder, I'm actually going to put these two wipes, one of these interstitial wipes in. Let's use the generic text. And we can change the text And we'll call this rollout for now, because generally we use these with rollouts. So I created my rollout interstitial. We're going to make it number 3, as I mentioned. Okay, so we know it's 3. And again, we use our Control E to get to it. And right away we know at about frame 60 we're fine, but it holds for a while and then goes out. So we're just going to we'll call it 60 for fun. We're going to rename this to Stish. Let's go STSH space in. That way on the button, Stish in. Next event, next event. This wants to take ID 1 to layer 5. So we have to delete this event and we have to reinsert it now that we want 3. Key 4, key 4, next, 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 till I get to the take action. I want ID 3, channel 1, but this time it's layer 5, because all of our wipes we run on a higher layer because they'll clear everything below them automatically for anything that's on that same channel. Because again, the expression runs things on multiple layers. It's a compositing engine, not just a playout server. And I go ahead and we take that item. So now we go into our event, and it would have helped had I pressed first the insert. Now I hit the take action. Now I hit the stop recording. So now it's got that element. And I put it in the wrong place. Delete that pause. Insert 2 frames of pause. There we go. Okay, 2 frames, then it runs that, waits 10 frames, cuts the key on air, and then we know we need to pause for 60 frames. So let's go ahead and delete that event, delete that event, insert event, 0, 1, enter, insert, stop recording. So that gave us our 60 frames. It does the cut underneath. Then we have to pause for how many frames? Go back to our studio system. We gotta wait until basically here. So about 240. So 60, 240 minus 60 is 180. 180 divided by 60 is 3, so 3 seconds. So we're going to insert, insert, insert event, 2, 3, insert, and now we stop recording. Next, that's just setting everything up to clear everything all out. So now the way this is built is no matter what, I want to go a rollout from, say, camera 3, we're clear, we want to roll out to blue for the react. So now on our stish in, right, runs our stish, transition underneath, and out to blue we came. If I wanted to use that as a transition with a keyer, for example, right, whatever I see in preview is what I'll get when I run one of those macros. So there you go. and then it clears it back down to background, so it's always back to the way we expect the transition area to be. So that's my stitch in. If I had a different stitch for a stitch out, I could build one of those, but in this case we don't, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to just we're going to delete this element. So custom control, select it, delete it, confirm the delete. We're also going to delete these. All of these flares and items that we just don't need. So we delete them. Okay. So now let's go back and see what's left. What's left for me to build today? I've got text. I've got a generic text. And now we've got our flares. So we got flare 1 and flare 3 in this case. If we go back to the package, we can see that there's actually flare 1, flare 2, and flare 3. So I'm going to drag flare 2 in as well, just to have it. You'll also see in the package, we've got the rejoins. Well, these are the rejoin flare offs, because there's no actual rejoin. So those are just additional flares as well. Now, a really easy way to renumber everything is highlight one, hold down the shift key on the keyboard, select them all, right click, renumber, and we're going to start renumbering at ID 4. Click OK. This will adjust other, it's okay, it's going to make other IDs change. I'm not concerned because we wanted these built in our package over here for switcher effects. We're going to save this package at this point, save as, and I'm going to call this College Tennis Switcher Effects. And that's just to save everything we've done so we don't lose it. Now we've got our flares. So, same thing. I can just come over here and I can see this flare hits at 34 frames. So now we're going to build one of these from scratch. We'll just build it right from scratch, and you'll see how normally I build a wipe clean. So I pick the macro I want to use, right? I go ahead and I start recording. Now the first thing I want to do is make sure I set up my key 4 correctly. So in the GUI, I go to the shop box, I go to bank 8, and I say key 4 set. That's set to key 4. Then I want to go ahead and I want to insert 2 frames. So I hold down the insert key, I press pause 2. That inserted 2 frames for me. So now I know that those button presses will take place. Now I want to send the wipe command. So I want ID 4. So I go key 4, next, next, next. So I see take. Now I want ID 4. And again, it's left over from before. Layer 5, channel 1. Toggle to toggle, push the knob to toggle between channel and layer. Like layer is more letters, that means I'm controlling the layer. Channel is more letters, I'm controlling the channel. Then I click the take button to fire the take action, right? Now we know I gotta wait 10 frames before I cut the key on air. So again, I go back to the custom control menu, I hold down insert, I press 10 frames. Now I could use the menu, or again, I've got the quick shortcuts. So I click quickly select the cut key, which jumps me into the cut key menu. I scroll the knob to ME2, key 4. I want the state to become on, because I want it to go on air, and I hit insert. I'll see that my macro comes on. Now we insert another pause, which is the duration of the wipe to its endpoint, which again we decided was 34 frames. So I come back, right, to my switcher, and we're still recording. And it's not recording time. It records button commands and the commands we insert. So I can sit here now for an hour and it's still waiting for the next button press. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert that 34 frames. Then I press the cut button. So it cuts underneath. Notice I've done nothing with the transition area. And that's because we want to be able to define what elements we go in or out with. We're treating this just like a wipe. If I was to hit a wipe button and run it, how would it behave? It would behave like this. So now we go ahead, we've cut. Now we want to wait the out duration. So again, go back to my layout side of my sequencer, and I can see that the flare is done right here around frame 72. So 72 minus 34 is 38. That was for the person in the truck who was looking at me when I was trying to do math. Okay, now we just simply go insert 35, and I'll just make it more. So it can be longer, it doesn't matter. It's on the way out, it's only a couple frames. I hit background, I hit dissolve, and I always want to cut the key off air. So again, because the macro toggles it on, I could press cut, but I'm a stickler for the details, so I like to go in and I like to set the state to off for ME2, key 4, insert it, so it'll always cut it off. So now I go ahead and I stop recording. So I've got those exact events built, how I built every other wipe, and it's always the exact same steps. That's what makes it easy to copy, paste, and just modify a few elements. But it's nice to be able to build it from scratch. So we're going to go over here, we're going to go back to it, because I don't want to name it any other way than with the keyboard. And I'm just going to call it FLR space 1. Hit enter. There we go. We've got flare 1. So again, just like before, I'll just simply come here, double tap. A background will include any active key. That's the same thing as doing that, but it just allows me to add the key quickly. Now I hit the flare, right? And you can see that when we flared it, we're behind on our cut. So somehow my timing of it is off. I was looking at a different flare. This flare it's literally at 5 frames. So let's go ahead and let's delete these. Let's insert 5 frames. Now let's run it. There we go. Beautiful. And its total duration is really only 35 frames. So if we go ahead and we look at this guy and we edit him, next, moving, stepping through the steps, instead of 35 frames, instead of 45 frames, let's just make it 35 frames. So now as we run it, nice and beautiful. Look at that. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So next up, what we've got to do is we could go through and I could build all the flares, but they're identical. Every single one of these flares is identical. There's no difference between them. So next up, the remaining flares will all be added to the system. Again, in Bank 3, we also built a couple more of those elements, like a 3/4 split. Now the 3/4 split, what it does is it cues ME1 to the program ME. Also, if any key was on air when you cue that, you'd note it would include them in the transition area. That way we'd go clean to our split. Then what we've got is a 3/4 split with CG. The purpose of the 3/4 split with CG is in case not only the split bar, which the split bar is coming from the internal media store of the switcher, because it's captured on the still store of the switcher on the USB, but it allows us to layer the graphics because we might have a lower third or a dual name tag or a keys. So sometimes we do the keys, and that's called the split keys. And again, that actually uses media store channel 2, which is channel 4 of the main expression. It can drive the media store channels, and we always put our keys to the match in that channel because it's a static graphic. So it'll layer on top, and the CG operator already knows to do that. He'll tell you that the split is ready. You press that button and it'll call it up. So if we look at it, we're on a camera, we call up our key split, it goes into preview, and you can see we've got media 2 on top. Right now there's no keys pushed, so you just have to imagine that it would be there. It sets it up, it's clean, and then, you know, we might flare into it. And then we want to flare out to say a wide shot on camera 5, and that's when they'll bring in the locator, and then we'll go to break out of the splits. Then we've got our clears, as we mentioned, for clearing the channels. So again, I want to clear channel 1. I just hit that clear button, it clears it out for me. Now it's free, so I can put it on air so that if a graphic animates in, the operator can go ahead and take it, and it's a nice clean element in. But you have control. That way, if you take a key off air, you see a graphic you don't want in the channel, I just go ahead and say, hey, clear it out. And then same thing with clearing of 2. And then you've got your resumes. So for example, I have my big score, right? I could use the big score off, or I could use the channel 2 resume, because that'll resume it, but now I have to dissolve out the key or cut out the key afterwards. The big off, for example, was basically firing the resume, plus it was clearing the channel. Now, the next commands are really nice. So I've got it up, he has his bar on a graphic, we can see it in the preview render engine. If I hit X1 next, it goes ahead and there it is. And it moves the bar to the next item. I go ahead and I hit next. That one drove to channel 2. Because channel 1 and channel 2 are on the same machine, they will drive from the same area. Finally, of course, I can always just clear the channels if I don't like what's there. Now, that takes care of all the macros, how we build them, and what we do with them. Now what's really neat is how we cut the show. Now how we cut the show is unique. A lot of big switchers, traditionally you have a 3ME switcher or 4 on a production truck because you want to use the keypad to recall your cameras. It's much faster, it's easier, and if you can set up your effects, it allows your left hand to always be moving between your macro events and your wipe elements really quickly, also being free to maybe grab something quick on the preset bus while your right hand drives the show. So how I built this is in bank 0, so bank 0, so that's right now it shows 0 in the first digit. 1 is camera 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, 4 is 4, 5 is 5. And that's all with all keys clean. It will always cut the keys on the take. So if I had a key in, right, when I cut it to camera 1, it drops the key at the same time. So you can cut clean. Bank 1 will cut with your score bug, which is always on key 3. So if my bug's in, right, as I'm cutting cameras, it will never take the bug out on me. So this is much faster and easier. Ready 1? We're on 1. Ready 3? Take 3. Ready 4? Take 4. Ready 1? Take 1. Ready 5? Take 5. Now, this is because when we stored the memories, I set it up just like this, and I said store. And we stored to the program side of the system. So in dashboard, under my live assist, when I look at my memories, so go to memory, this is where you'll find, make it full screen, your, what we call attributes. So when I look at my ME, I'm telling this system to recall all these elements. I actually have told it to ignore everything here, but it should be set like this. Excellent. So that's exactly how we should have it currently set. Now we have no Hawkeye in ESPN Tennis. So we're going to go through and we're going to restore all these memories. So it's kind of easy. I'm going to make sure that I go in and we'll set this to be media 2, just in case there's a still graphic he wants to give us on a separate channel. And we'll use that for tennis purposes. So key 1, I'm going to use media 2. We're going to make sure that it's an auto select key. So that way it's nice and clean. So we go to our memories. Everything is set to recall mode. What that means is however the memory is stored is exactly how it will recall. Now what's neat is when I store a memory, So I look at my store elements. This is where I define what things I want to recall and what things I don't want to recall. So I can turn things on and off. So the thing that's most important, and you have a quick override for, you'll notice, is the mode in which we store. So for these elements, I want to store them on air. So we're going to start with bank 0. I would simply come in, I've got my keys all set up the way I want them, and I'd simply do this. 1, I want to store it to 1, enter. 2, 2, enter. 3, 3, enter. 4, 4, enter. 5, 5, enter. Now, what we did have was 6 was actually on the recall. What it would do is it would recall the beauty clean. So I could get to beauty. Now, 0 would recall beauty with font. It's a little bit different. Not everybody uses that, but it was available. How it did this is when I stored it, I did store the memory like this. So actually 6 was supposed to be Hawkeye. So Hawkeye could give us the board underneath on the floor. Since we're not using Hawkeye, we don't want to really do that with this memory. So we're going to put both of these, we're going to put 6 and 0. I'm going to make this one the beauty. We're going to make them the same thing, that it would be beauty clean, or this will call up mini ME4, which is beauty with the font already on it. So to do that, what I actually do is I say I want it online. I want to make sure my keys are off. Only when I store the memory, instead of storing the program, I store the memory AI. Memory AI means figure out how to recall this clean for me, so I don't have to do the thinking. It's just a snapshot. So now I store that to 6, hit enter. I do the same thing for red to 7, blue to 8, green to 9, and then, like we said, we wanted mini ME4, which is going to be the beauty, or 5, whatever was the last thing I recalled on that mini ME. We're going to store that to 0. So now I want to do what we were talking about before. So bank 1 is cameras. So we'll just go ahead and we'll say, okay, it's camera 1, right? Program though, but bug in. So now I store that to 1, enter. 2, 2, enter. 3s, 3, enter. 4, 4, enter. 5, 5, enter. I always cut program and preview the same. I don't leave preview untouched. That way they always cut and the snapshot always takes place, and it makes it easier for me to know I'm on a memory. So again, for beauty, we go to beauty clean, only we change it to memory AI, and we want to cut the key off air because we always want it to go clean. So I want no keys lit up. So I hit 6, enter. Red, 7, enter. Blue, 8, enter. Green, 8, enter. Then I take my mini ME4, same thing, 0, enter, because that's where I'm going to do my flies. Now we want to do it with font. We do that in bank 2. So we go to bank 2, right? Go to 1, make sure it's on program, with font 1. And now we go ahead and we say store 1, enter. 2, 2, enter. 3, 3, enter. 4, 4, enter. 5, 5, enter. Beauty, the key off though, 6, enter. Red, 7, enter. Blue, 8, enter. Green, 9, enter. Only those I accidentally stored to program. So we got to make sure to go back, beauty, change it to memory AI. Green, 9, enter. Mini ME4, 0, enter. And if I want to have it, just in case, I can always go ahead and say, okay, bank 3. Bank 3 is going to be that one on, right? Let's store 1, enter. 2, 2, enter. 3, 3, enter, 4s, 4, enter, camera 5, 5, enter, beauty, right? But again, memory AI, 6, enter, red to 7, go back to beauty, make sure the key's off, now store that to there. You can see I was making mistakes because I'm going too fast. Because again, memory AI is saying, whatever is stored right now, when I recall you, use memory AI and try to get it just like this. So now that we have our memories built, we're done. We're ready to go. So let's give the example of we're, coming back from a break. So we'd be coming back from a break. We'd be recall mode. Usually I'm almost always in bank 1. I rarely use the other banks. I'll use bank 2 during the open when we leave the font hot and the CG operator is constantly putting them in. That way I can cut cameras and it'll leave it in. So in the open, I'm in bank 2, cutting cameras so that the font is in. So we take 3, we put in his bio, he takes it out because it's an animate in, animate out, take 4, the bio goes in, bio goes out. You don't have to worry about it. But when we go to game action, so after the open, I will come down and I will change my bank to bank 1. And now when we're in bank 1, now I'm cutting with the bug. So what we'll have is, we'll have, obviously, nothing would be in. So we'll just bug off. So we've got our scenic. We start rolling the scenic. We come up on the scenic. We bring in our big score if it's not already in. So there's our big score. And they talk about it, and then it's like, okay, ready camera 3. Now, he may call for an undercut. Again, because the big score runs in this channel and we're in bank 1, I can undercut to 3. I can undercut to 4. Undercut 3. Lose the score. Big score goes off. All right. And now, ready 1, take 1, bug in. And that's the workflow. Ready 1, take 1, bug goes in. And now as we cut cameras, ready 3, take 3. Ready 4, take 4. Ready replay on red. Now I don't have to, I can keep my hand up here on the left-hand side, moving along my replay wipes. And you'll notice there's little physical nubs that you'll feel. I've moved the cap, so bug off has a knob, big off has a knob, and our out with 1 has a little nub on it. Just kind of makes it easy for me to feel my way around the buttons. So instead of having to reach over, press red, roll red, because he'll be like, ready 4, take 4, ready 5, take 5, ready set, ready red. So I press 7, and you'll see the preview monitor changes, so I see red completely clean. Now I run my wipe, we go in, they roll the replay, and again, ready blue. Blue. I can just press 8 and it calls up blue. Now I have 2 choices here. This is where I can use the memory system to my advantage. I could simply turn on effects dissolve right here with my left finger, and if I press 8 again, it automatically dissolves. So effects dissolve will override, because I'm overriding it right now. On the recall side, when nothing is lit up, it will recall it how you stored it. But on the recall side, if I turn on effects dissolve, now it will dissolve to what I wanted. Again, goes to the snapshot how it was. So I dissolve to blue, right? They're rolling blue. Now, he could say ready 3. I could use my left hand and select 3 on the preset bus if I'd like, or I could have pressed memory AI and just pressed 3. Because the other benefit is you'll see that it's going to come back with score. Because it's the snapshot, how it was stored, that key was on air. So I can do that. But the other thing to note, no matter what, these outs will always bring in the bug. So I don't necessarily have to use the memory AI function. A lot of times, though it's really cool, and I like it sometimes, because it can leave this hand as he's like, ready 3, no 4, ready 5, no 3, yeah, out on 3. So there we go, we come out on 3. I have to remember, though, to turn off effects dissolve or memory AI, whatever I had last up, because I want to make sure that I'm now doing how the memory was stored. So it's to program. So So again, a lot of the time, it's just a lot easier to just go ready 1, take 1, ready 2, take 2, ready 3, take 3, ready 4, ready blue. 8 primes up blue. My left hand presses the replay in when he says wipe replay. Now I hit effects dissolve. Ready red, dissolve red. Ready green, dissolve green. Right now we got a scenic up, but you get the picture. Back on blue for another look. Back on blue. Ready 4, out to 4. But now remember, turn off that effects dissolve. Ready 1, take 1. Ready 2, take 2. Ready 3, take 3. If we were in that replay, another method that could take place is I did green here on the preset bus and I auto trans to it. I did blue, I auto trans to it. Ready 4, no, too late, out to 1. That's why there's an out to 1. You queued it up, you put your finger on the out bug, and he says, no, too late, out 1. You just move it 1 step to the left, and boom, out to 1. Nice and clean. And those are the biggest elements that you're going to have, is cutting in and out of the replays. Now, as we go to break, same thing. They serve, the score ends. We never go to a replay at the winning point of a game. So when they're serving for that winning point, you want to move your left hand, or playing for the winning point to break, you want to move your left hand to the bug off button. You want to have it around the bug off button, because ready 1, take 1, he hits an ace on this play. So right away we got to be able, and even while the bug's going off, he may call for a camera. So I press bug off, camera 2. Remember, the cameras, when I'm cutting in bank 1, will always have the bug still on. So ready 1, take 1, ready 2, take 2, bug off, ready 3, take 3. It's perfectly fine. You can press these buttons simultaneously. Neither one is going to mess up the other. So the bug goes out, ready rollout. Ready our rollout on blue. Give me a rollout of that last hit of the react. So you go ahead, you're ready blue, and then you'll use like the stish in. So this is where we'd have, hence the rollout. Rollout to blue, we come out on blue, 5, 4, 3, put in your big score goes in, 2, 1, and we're clear. And then you'll get a couple seconds, let it breathe, and dissolve your beauty shot. And then we sit on this until it's time to come back from break. And coming back from break, we might come back right on the beauty. They'll pick it up. Same thing. Yada, yada, yada. They're talking. Ready to lose big score. Lose big score, right? The big score goes out. Ready camera 3. Let's dissolve to 3. Dissolve 3. Ready 2, take 2. Ready 1, take 1. And bug in. So that is pretty much the workflow throughout the whole system. And the going out at the end of the match works the exact same way as the going in. A lot of times we're just cutting cameras the old-fashioned way. We'll leave the key hot for them. Ready 3, take 3. Ready 4, take 4. Key your font. The font comes in. The font goes out. Then it'll be okay, ready beauty with the bracket. So we hit beauty with CG. He'll put it actively on the channel. So again, if we're going to do that, you want to make sure that you've cleared the key. They put it on the channel, right? We're going to go ahead, we're going to flare to it. We'd have the graphic up already. And then, we're going to come out to camera 3 clean. Come out to camera 3 clean. Okay, guys, ready the rollout. Rollout on green. And they'll usually put a front end to the rollout, which acts as that interstitial. So it'll just be a straight take, and they'll instantly start playing green. And then right towards the end at the count out, 5, 4, 3, big score. You put in the big score, 2, 1, and if there's a cap, we'll cap it. Otherwise, we'll just ease out into oblivion. And again, just as he comes to the end of this rollout, you'll dissolve out to the beauty shot, and then if this is the end of the night, the graphics person's going to throw up a good night satellite. So that's how we do tennis. That's how we build for tennis. And hopefully this helps you guys in making it a lot easier to get started with tennis packages. If you have any questions, you guys know who I am. Just give me a call. All right, take care. Bye.